Que pasa, gente? Bienvenido a Lucha Talk. I'm your host, Dylan Fox. This is episode 169 of our show. And joining me now to talk Lucha once again, back after the anniversary return last month. We're coming at you again in the year of our Lord 2025. To my virtual right, the man, the myth, and the producer, Microman Fever. It's good to be back, man.
Yep, good to be back. I couldn't wait to come back again this month, and I think this is a good pace for the show because we get to see all these things develop.
Yeah, I totally agree because the way that things have gone, we had a good segment at the start of the last show where we talked about kind of how the American companies kind of influenced Lucha while we were away, and things kind of changed, and we've seen that pretty much throughout the year, and especially this last month, which we are going to talk about both major shows that happened, this past weekend. But it gives us a good pace to go in, like you said, and I like it too because we're right on the edge of Dia de Muertos, Halloween and all of that stuff. I'm a big fan of those kind of holidays personally. For a long time, I actually volunteered, to help out some foster kids and go trick or treating in the past. So it's really meant a lot to me over the years for these days. So I'm always a big fan of this time of year. You got to pay respect to everybody. So I'm in a pretty good mood, all things considered, going into the show and in this time of year. And obviously, like CML has the Dia de Muertos shows and stuff like that coming up in a couple weeks. I don't know how they're going to air them with how things are right now. But we're at a good time of the year, and there were two shows, and we watched both of them, at this point. So we are going to talk about both, as I said. I'm going to throw it to you, man. Which one do you want to start off with, Eros Inmortales or the Grand Prix?
I think we should start with the Grand Prix.
All right, sounds good to me. This was, of course, the Grand Prix de Amazonas, which was the women's version of the Grand Prix, of course. They had the men's version in August, and we actually talked a little bit about that last month, too. This show, and both of the Grand Prix shows, the men's one had the same kind of format. I mean, the main event was like literally the exact same format down to the military thing they did there. But overall, I think it was a good pace. And kind of what I get into whenever we talk about these shows, and I'll probably ask the same question when we get to Eros Mortales. But what was kind of your vibe going into this show? Where did you see all these characters, and a lot of them are probably like, well, not probably. A lot of these people were unknown, more or less, to the Mexican fans. And I would presume there were some people you weren't aware of, or maybe some people you were. What was kind of your hype level going into this match, especially compared to the men's version?
I think the men's version, that roster of the international team is kind of a weaker one. When, especially looking at the one from last year, that one has like some big main eventers from AEW, heavyweight guys. And then this year, all the guys, I think there's like two maybe heavyweights on that team, but the rest are like cruiserweight, light heavyweight. And so compared to the women's one now, women's team seemed like more had more star power to it to me. Even with like some of the women from AEW that a lot of people don't know and just been around and not really have done much in wrestling or gotten the chance to do much. They were on the team. You had even like someone as inexperienced as Julia Hart on there. Even though I think she did okay. But you can tell, like, watching the match, it's like you're seeing the experience levels come through. You're seeing what they have with charisma. And do you want to get in the match right now?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to kind of bounce off of you is like when you think about it, the rest of the world team for the men's match, I didn't really think about it that way, but when I did, it's like, yeah, the biggest guy was what, Mortos? Like, and he was a Mexican,
Yeah,
first of all, but he was on the world team because it was AEW. But everyone else was like,
Yeah.
like Oh, and yeah, Dijak, yeah, he was the biggest one as well. Yeah, and everyone else was like, you know, Ishimori and Speedball and definitely lighter weight players. Um, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. I definitely would say the teams were much more even in the women's match overall. But I will briefly just go over the undercard real quick because I did. We'll get to the main match, but I'll just briefly touch on it. Nothing was like too crazy to watch or anything like that. The opener was El Elemental and Yutani versus Dragon de Fuego and Dragon Legendario. And basically, like Legendario, he was a guy that was in that Dojo Wars stuff a couple of years ago. The same one that I think Zelwa I brought up with. Uh, but it seems like they tried to bring these guys up. Utani, he was a guy who wrestled in Japan. Well, he's obviously Japanese, but he wrestled for a company called Glate, which is kind of like the weirdest company. Not in terms of like style. I mean, they're a normal company. Uh, like sometimes they do lucha style, sometimes they do UWF shoot style. It's just a weird company. But he came in and wanted to go in Mexico, and he's done a pretty good job. Their match was really quick. I mean, we saw like the Los Dragones, they were doing some crazy spots. We saw Legendario do like a reverse 450 to the outside, which was wild, and they were really rolling. Unfortunately, it kind of fell apart by the end. Unfortunately, Utani kind of messed up a couple of spots, especially the finish. But it was a pretty high energy opener, and I kind of liked it. It wasn't great or anything, but it was fun. The next match was Hechicero and Zelwa. And the thing is, it was a lightning match, so you kind of knew it was going to be a tease of what you could do, more so than the full buffet. But for like a 5 minute match or whatever, it was pretty well worth watching. Like they did good. We all know those guys rock, and the crowd was really into Hechicero too. So he's a guy that's really benefited. Semi main was Mascara Dorada and Titan. They took on Barbaro Cavernario Defunto. I thought
Oh
everybody
yeah,
did good in that match. That was another that was the best match on the undercard, in my opinion. Uh, yeah, and I know you checked that out too. I'm just always impressed with these guys. I mean, everybody talks big about Mascara Dorada, and for good reason. I'm not going to badmouth him at all. I thought he was great. Uh, I thought him and Cavernario had some great interactions, including the finish, of course, on there. And Defunto, he's a guy that's just I feel like he grows every time I watch him, and I already love him a lot, and he just keeps doing better and better. So it was a lot of fun, good stuff after. And then they both double teamed Mascara Dorada and attacked him, while Titan just kind of laid on the outside and watched on there. What did you think? I know you checked that match out. Did you like that tag too?
yeah. I had to see that, man. Those four guys. It's like CML does this thing where they'll have like this trios match, and then what they'll like sneak in a guy that's like just not as good as the other two.
It's usually Esfine. But
Yeah,
now it's the main. He's in the main event sneaking in, unfortunately. But go
and
on.
these guys are the guys covering for them. Usually, it's usually Sphinge, Atlantis Junior, Atlantis. Those kind of guys. They just want them in there in the main events, be seen as main eventers. So I thought it was a really good match. Um, Defunto, yeah, when he first showed up, I was kind of not behind the medal.
Yeah. No, I was totally the
And
same.
then
Yeah.
he kept getting better, and so he just lost some confidence and puts in a lot of effort now, and he's really won me over. I think he's one of the better guys now, and he's like just a great opponent for those guys that need him, like a smaller guy to manipulate and move around and do those kind of big moves with them. The Star Technicos like Dorada. So he fits in perfectly with that. Yeah, just a really good match, and of course Cavernario, one of the best guys in the company, I think. And you say about Dorada and Titan, they're like perfect, like an all-star team.
Yeah. Well deserved spot in the semi main here. But overall, like I said, the undercard was super easy. Like they made it pretty clear that this like it wasn't important or anything like that. But everybody tried hard. Even the opener was kind of like less esteemed guys. But I do like Legendario a lot. I think he's got big potential going forward. But they had and like I remember Teton and Cavernario were having match of the year level matches 10 years ago, and they're still just as great as they were then. They haven't lost
And then
anything since then.
together,
Cavernario kind of went down.
they formed a
For,
team.
yeah,
They had another great,
yep,
almost match of the year type of tag match.
yeah. I mean, they can't miss together, and it just seems like they're two of the best always in the company. So yeah, check that match out. It's got a 7.32 rating on Cage Match on there. Like it's close to the women's Grand Prix in terms of the inmates they're voting. Echisero Zelwa has
Feeling
6.91.
it's
The
Shelwa.
opener is yeah
Yeah.
Shelwa, yeah. Um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. That totally like threw me off a little bit. Sorry, but let's just move on to the main event. The women's Grand Prix, Torneo Cibernetico. Uh, we had the Team Mexico versus the rest of the world. You had India Sue, La Catalina, Harachita, Juvia, Olympia, Persephone, Reina Isis, Scotty, and Zushis. Two of these people were not born in Mexico, to be fair, but I mean, it's not like it's the first time that's happened. Dalis would talk about it all the
You know
time.
what? That's something I'm not a fan of. I think that team should be all Mexican.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. The only way that this would work is if you just called it Team CMLL. Like, okay, like now at least
Yes.
that makes sense. If you're gonna call it Team Mexico, then yeah. Plus, I think it would be more interesting for the fans, like the Arena Mexico fans, where if you had people that are always there, like Zushis or Persephone on the world team, that would kind of give more balance there too. So I actually totally agree with you. to be fair. But again, it's not like something new. They've done this a bunch of times, to be fair. But regardless, the rest of the world team: Dante, Hazuki, Julia Hart, Kanji, Koguma, Mina Shirakawa, Shoko Nakajima, Sky Blue, and Tekla. You had Diamante. She's in AEW, kind of represents Ring of Honor. Hazuki and Koguma, they represent Stardom. They're from Japan, obviously. Then you had Julia Hart, Sky Blue. They're both in AEW, and Tekla as well. Not only are all three in AEW, but they also are a team. So like they're all together. They're a unit. Uh, Kanji represents England. Shirakawa is also from AEW, but she's from Japan. And Shoko Nakajima, she was listed as MLW, which was pretty funny, considering she came from Tokyo Joshi Pro in Japan. But she does wrestle in MLW a lot too, so they were on there. So to me, I like the match. Don't get me wrong, but I thought there was some really weird weird elimination choices. I would say here in terms of how they did things. It's like Koguma was the first person eliminated, and she just came off of a banger match with Hazuki, who are like tag team partners in Japan. But they had this match for the CML women's title, and it was a great match just a couple of weeks ago. Uh, and it was just so weird. You had people coming in and out, like Julia and Sky Blue last to the end. It was silly. I thought they were like the two weakest people in the match in a lot of ways for me. I mean, they were fine. Don't get me wrong, but they definitely didn't stand out. They wouldn't have been my picks to be near the end. To be honest, well, Juvia was also there, so I guess that they're not everybody's perfect, to say the least. But they did some spots where like early on, they had some spots where like everybody was kind of fighting on the outside. They tried to create this chaotic type of nature and all of that. And I noticed that you had some different pairings early on too, with that like people from each team would kind of like Kanji and Reina Isis would always seem to wind up together. Scotty and Diamante were together a lot. I actually thought they were one of the better pairings. Scotty, that's another one that's like come a long way. Like
Yeah.
come a long way, to say the least. And I thought that was one of the better pairings of the whole match. Uh, I will say this too. Seemed like to me that the fans really bought into Shirakawa as like a star player going in there. They had a lot of stuff with her and Catalina, which was very fun there as well. So that was good. They came in and everybody kind of came in at a fast and furious pace. But I didn't think there was anything too bad. I thought the only time it kind of got a little rough was when it was like Juvia and Harachita taking on like Sky Blue and Julia. I thought things got a little rough there, and Tekla was involved too. But they did recover from that afterwards. They built things to the end, and I thought it was pretty clear that this match was going to be designed to get over Persephone as like the new like top player of the women's division here, and that's what it came down to. So they set up with her and Tekla were the final two after. It was like it came down to like Persephone and Zushis, and then Sky Blue and Tekla, and Zushis got eliminated, and Persephone ended up pinning Sky Blue after a really cool like springboard splash there. And so her and Tekla, they had a pretty great ending segment. I thought they built it right. They had some really good stuff. Tekla did her like spider German from the top, shades of Togi Makabe in there. But Persephone came back. She got hit her big moves, the big splash mountain, and then the big moonsault to get the win. And they introduced all the like big wigs from Stardom and stuff, like the CEOs or whoever, like the presidents of the companies coming in, and they gave her the trophy. And then Shirakawa and Catalina danced together, which I don't know why that happened, but it happened, and I'm not going to argue it. But what do you think of this overall, Micro?
Overall, I thought it was a good match, like overall, but I think that was mainly because the second half of the match saved it for me. I think like a good part of the match was just there's nothing happening, there's nothing going on. They're really just filling each other out and splitting up into pairs, like you were saying. Yeah, like I see the CML women, their level of performance not that great, and
Yeah.
like a level below, I would say, what you see in on average in America, in the U.S., on TV wrestling for women. I think, yeah, they don't meet that standard. There's some that do. So there's some good performers on the CML women's side, but I mean, really, like Uvia, like I don't see. Yeah,
Yeah, she
her
was the
Sky
worst
Blue
of
too,
everyone.
really bad.
Yeah, that was the worst part of the match. I thought when they were going
Yeah,
at each
that
other.
on the match for me. I don't see. Even like I think Olympia was struggling a little bit, but she found her groove later on. It just wasn't exciting in that the first like 20-25 minutes of the match, and then Scotty got in, and then it's like yes, finally some competition here because it just looked like they were just showing off that first half. So I thank her for doing that in the match, and I think like the good people on the world team were like actually like just look so much better than what the best of CML had. Catalina strong, probably I would say the strongest one on the team performance wise, even above Persephone. Even though Persephone does get the win, or yeah, to get the win, and get to be in the final four. So I really liked Kanji too on the world side, and I think Shoko Nakajima, the best person in the match by far, the best, most skilled person. I think like really, she could have like a great match with most of these women on her own, and yeah, there's just more variety on the world team that I appreciated compared to the men's Grand Prix that we had earlier. And then
Yeah,
yeah,
I really wish that FWC hadn't been eliminated first. Like like Koguma and Hazuki, because like they I thought they left a lot on the table with them, and Hazuki's
yes,
yeah,
we didn't see what they could do
and
in this match.
and Hazuki in particular got eliminated in a really like made her look like a dork because she did that big dive to the outside onto Catalina, and she was like super fired up with the crowd, and then Scotty came up behind her to just bring her back and eliminate her in the ring, and I was like, wow. But that whole start of the match too, like because they both got eliminated, it was like a 9-6 win, like not 9-6 win, but a 9-6 advantage for the Mexican team. I thought that was an interesting way to start the match to kind of give them like a couple of key eliminations early before Shoko got them on the board over India Sue, who was also like a lesser player. I thought they were smart to get her out early, personally. But
And I thought India Sue killed it last week in the Universal title match with Scotty. That was like great match, I thought.
yeah, man, I'm just mystified at how good Scotty is now because she's someone that when she had those first few years of her career, and it was like, man, please retire. Like, why did you get into this business?
Jesus.
But I mean, oh come on, you thought the
Yeah,
same
well, yeah,
thing.
yeah. It was really that bad. It was really that bad.
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, most people now watching never saw that stuff that we did. But if you look at her now, if you just came into 2025, you're thinking, damn, she's one of the best ones. And she was. Like, she was totally one of the best in this match. And I thought did some good stuff here. I totally agree about Kanji, too. She really felt like she wanted to put her best effort because she was kind of the one person on the world team that wasn't already signed to like a major company because you know in England you're always kind of in that
Yeah.
Rev Pro zone pretty much. It really felt like she wanted to try her very best to either get brought back or maybe get good words said to AEW, and I thought she had a really good performance. And I one thing I too liked about the world team that I think the men's version didn't have nearly as much of. Pretty much all these people, even the ones that were eliminated early, like FWC, you had them, Kanji, Shirakawa, Tekla, even. They were super, super interactive with the crowd. Like felt like they had a really great plan to just try to get the fans into the match, even if the work wasn't always going to be great. But I think that part really worked. Although I do have to say this, not only like I said, Julia was not as bad as Sky Blue, I thought, but I loved when they had the entrances for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, because they obviously every year they have the military stuff. When Julia came out, they had her in like the team jacket or whatever. But her whole gimmick is like this super goth type person. So she came out with like the dark gloves and the dark hat and the black and all this, and then also this Team World jacket that she had on. I thought that was awesome and very funny. The thing is, these matches are kind of like CMLL's answer to like a Royal Rumble to me.
Okay, yeah.
Whether it's the men or the women, you have to try hard to make these not good. Like, I think they're always fun. It's always a spectacle. The fans always buy into the military, the patriotic stuff, even though some people might not actually be born in Mexico. The fans didn't care about that, clearly. They were all riled up for Persephone to get the win here. And it just felt like a really good vibes type of match overall. And they're at 7.77, and it was the highest one of the show. And I definitely think it's worth a watch, to say the least.
Yeah, I would agree.
Honestly, like I said, I like this whole show. The undercard was super easy, and the main event was a spectacle. It had a lot to it. I don't know what happened to CMLL lately because I always look at them as this like very base type of company. Not base, not like Basado, but like basic type of company a lot. And lately they did this show. Did you see the Pokemon show they
I
did
actually
last
watched
month? Because
Yeah.
that was pretty. Yeah, me too. That was awesome. I love that show. I thought that
You know
was a
what?
ton
I
of fun.
think they could have
On that.
leaned more into the character stuff. They were
I
just
do agree with that.
I think most people just had like their regular outfit on and just did like a normal match. But
The main event was where I think they did it the most, where you had Mystico come out with the Lucha like jacket or whatever he had on. But I do agree with you. But I love the idea of it that you're doing this weird Pokemon show just for no real reason. But it was just a lot of fun, and it's
I
something
think they
free to watch too.
miscasted. I think they miscasted those guys. Like in the main event for what was it Halucha?
And Machamp.
Yeah, I think those guys should have
Yeah.
been like more like the Pokemon. Like
I think they'd really missed the boat on having Cavernario not be like a Cubone or something like that.
yes,
Like that's practically his gimmick. Like come on, man, this is a layup.
Like
CMLL.
for sure, I thought Esfina was gonna be, in the
Oh my
running for
god.
Machamp or whatever his name.
Yeah, and like Machamp is like both of those Pokemon are like wrestler Pokemon, like Hawlucha and Machamp. Uh, Machamp is like super jacked, and Hawlucha is like a luchador Pokemon. So which makes it an easy buy, obviously. Uh, but I guess the thing is, it doesn't even make sense because if they had done it right, you could have had Hawlucha be the masked luchadors, and then Machamp's team be the freaking unmasked guys, like the
Yeah.
body guys. But instead, you had like Hechicero on Machamp's
Yeah.
team. So like none of this makes sense overall. But I love the concept. I hope they do more with it next year coming in there. So uh, they leaned into the vibes very heavily. I mean, they're going to keep doing it with the DNA Muerto show, which was kind of like their original version of a wacky like like outside the box type of show. So we'll see how that goes overall. It usually goes good, to be fair, but good month for CML, I would say, and a good show with the Amazonas Grand Prix there that they had. So let's take a trip over to AAA now. They had their Eros Inmortales show, which they do every year. It's one of their major shows on the calendar. This year was a little unique in terms of how they aired it. And we did talk about the last episode about obviously earlier this year WWE buying AAA and how that was changing some of the production techniques and all of that. But basically, there's a lot in terms of the Mexican TV deal that AAA has, rather the streaming deal with HBO Max, which has led to some confusion on these type of shows. And this was not a Worlds Collide type of show where it was like basically broadcast in America and you had the English commentary and all of that. This was a native AAA show, and they aired what we could see being in America. If you were a Mexican fan, if you're located in Mexico, you could watch their shows on Max, and you could watch the full show on that. But we had to watch the YouTube version, which is up for free, by the way. If you want to check that out, uh, go to the page on cagematch.net, the Heroes Immortales 2025 page. There's an external link on there that takes you to the video if you want to watch it, uh, which showed us 3 matches and some storyline stuff. So they kind of put a lot of the main matches on there. Although I think they could have, uh, aired some of the other ones too on there. I was sad because we didn't get to see Galeno, who is currently a champion in Noah in Japan right now, on here. But instead, he was on the purely Mexican side. But I'm sure that stuff will come out eventually as well. Anyway, so I asked it about the Grand Prix. This one was a little different. What was your hype level, and also did you kind of anticipate how it was going to air on YouTube, and how things were going to go here, or were you just like, it's AAA, who knows what'll happen?
Well, I had a feeling that it would show up on YouTube just because WWE's involved now, and they want more people to see it, obviously. So they're probably gonna post to YouTube. And yeah, HBO Max, and that's gonna be only for the Mexican IP addresses. So you would need a VPN, and going through all that just to watch AAA is really not for me, or I think most people. But for the show, like, was I excited? It's like I kind of forgot this show is even happening, type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't really that excited. Looking at the matches, you know, uh, it's just more of the same. I think that we were seeing with AAA, and even in the US version of AAA, that's kind of like been the plan for action that they've been going with, and it's more of the same. Uh, People you see on the ATV are gonna go against the AAA homegrown people, so more of that. And something I wasn't expecting was this starting out with the Hijo de Vikingo promo segment.
The thing is, it felt like the promotion for the show, they've really gone a totally different way than it used to be or has really been done in Lucha Libre for a while. Uh, where everything is built upon the title match, like in terms of how they hype it. It's like, hey, Dominic's defending the belt. Like that's it. There's nothing really more to it than that on here. And I suppose that's what they care about most. But as you said, the show started off with Ilda Vikingo coming out, and he was like, this promo to me, it's nothing against him at all. He's gone into this Rudo direction. It's fine, but the problem is that this promo segment lasted forever. And this was literally like the first 25 minutes of this show. It was like if Triple H was Mexican, man. I didn't want to see this. And so he went on and on. Like early on, they booed him, obviously, and he blamed everybody for everything. And he was talking about how, he was the one that came in. He was the best one in the world, whether the fans even like it or not.
Yeah.
And then that ended up with Grande Americano coming out. I think the best part of his segment was when he said that Mexico City was his hometown, which was very funny. And the crowd loved it. Like, at least to these fans, they totally took to Grande and Dominic as like the two top stars of AAA, at least to the native AAA fans. I don't know how we got here, but it did work. I will say Grande Americano was actually like pretty good on the mic, like in Spanish and stuff. I do have to say, so I will give him a lot of props for that overall.
Yeah, I think Grande Americano's great. Like,
yes,
character in this, works in this promotion for these fans. It's great on the microphone. In the ring, he's really good too. And you have the Vikingo coming out here and has like this Rudo attitude now. And he's always doing is mirroring the hate from the fans. Before he was just like taking all the abuse, and now he's like giving it back to them. And really, it was just like him gloating about his title reign and his performance. And fans like they don't care. They've already made their minds up on him. Ever since like they saw him, they saw him be preferred. They preferred him over Alberto, and Alberto, he
got a chant from the crowd too.
Big Alberto chant, and it's all that came from like him turning it around, his character, Alberto, his character in promos, and taking this direction where he's like, we don't need any outside company, we don't need any foreigners in here. And this is like him like at a press conference for like these shows doing all this. It wasn't even like on the TV shows that you would see. On TV shows, yeah, he's just like Barry Vikingo, make fun of him, make fun of his dad, beat him up every week type of thing. But Vikingo just looked like such a geek in that whole thing with Alberto leading up to the title switch, which is a big factor of why the fans didn't buy into him as a big star or a champion even. And like even before that, it's like, how did he win that title? I don't remember now, but I do remember the reign and him. It was always him having these kinds of matches.
Nobody does.
Guys that weren't quite the main eventers. They're like in the running for like a secondary title. Those type of guys. And it was always those guys from TNA or AEW, and even like guys in AAA. They were going for the Latin American title. They weren't going for the Mega Championship. It was more of like the secondary contenders, and that's really what I think did not help him at all. Now, when you factor it all together, the fans just didn't buy him as a main eventer. He needed that win over established main event guy, like a Psycho Clown or, even Cybernetico. But, they tried to do something there with Alberto, and people just didn't buy it because they saw him fail or not reach that level before. And even like leading up, there was like he only got like this one win over Macias and Alberto in this tag match only because they beat his ass so bad, like they DQ'd them. Like that's really like his only win over them leading up to the title switch. And so, yeah, I think Hijo de Vikingo just having this kind of image, it really comes down to like the booking, and obviously, big part of that is Conan, and he's always been like in denial about this, and he's always kind of like preferred, this easy type of fix for things. And I think this is another easy fix of his, where he's gonna turn him heel. When actually, you have to do it, I think, in a more clever way. It's like fans hate him, and you gotta like either play into that or turn it around. And so I think if you want to turn it around, it would have to be like an underling or a servant to someone that he did not get along with. So, like, I think if Conan goes with something like that, he would probably just make him like a gringo loco type of guy.
Well, it feels like they're already setting up something like that with him and Dorian.
Yes. There was like a promo segment backstage there with Dorian like came up to Vikingo and he's like, we have more in common than you think, type of hint.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a fine direction to go. And I'm sure we'll see that play out. I will say the one good thing they did was they actually set up stuff for the future at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Like, compared to the CMLL show, which was basically just
matches.
Like it was a one-off type of show. Yeah. At this, they actually like set things up and Vikingo going for the belt in the future in the tag match. So I like that they at least set some stuff up. That's probably the best compliment I can pay. And Vikingo as a heel, I think, can definitely work. It's going to be weird because, I mean, he's just so small that it's going to be hard to be him as like a Rudo type of player.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend on how much he buys into it, I feel like. Is he just going to wrestle the same as always? Or is he going to really add a lot more physicality to his game? Is he going to be like, the guy gouging some eyes, ripping some masks, hitting people with some weapons? I think he needs to really add all of that in as a Rudo. And I don't want it to just be like Dominic 2, where you're kind of an Americanized heel where you cheat all the time. But he's not really a vicious Rudo. He's more like an Americanized heel, like I said. I would like to see more viciousness from Vikingo going forward.
I think we're going to get Dominic 2.
Pairing him with Dorian says that you're exactly right. Like that already gives us a clue, pretty much. So we'll see what happens with that as more of like and not to say that a Weasley type of guy can't work in this role. I just think that again, people maybe have to keep their expectations, and I'm people in this circumstance where what you said is probably the most likely thing, I would say. But I like I said, I would like to see a more vicious side of things. Like, man, your gimmick is Vikingo. Like, do some Viking stuff, stab a guy with a horn, do something. But one thing I wouldn't do, and I told you this before the show, my number one critique of this is to not cut 25-minute promos to start off the show. Like, I get it that they are playing that for their audience, for the WWE audience, more than the Mexican audience. But who wants to see this? Like, what even American fan wants to see somebody stand in the ring for 25 minutes and just go on and on? And like I said, I don't want to see that for anybody. In the past, AAA had promos. It's not like they never cut promos before. They did that all the time. But they were always chaotic stuff, like something would happen and then something crazy would happen to give it a purpose, not just, well, we're going to talk. And by the way, not only did you have the big Grande Americano and Vikingo promo, what did they immediately go to after that? But a backstage promo with the aforementioned Dorian Roldan, where he was going on to Macias and Mecha Wolf,
Yes.
and he was like talking about how, hey, like, you guys are losing too much, you got to cut this out. And then suddenly NGD walked in, and they were like, hey, we're going for that tag, but we're going for the tag belts. And Dorian is kind of like trying to manipulate these other Rudos, and it kind of set up what was going to happen in the match anyway, I suppose. So at least they looks at least took some care, and I think that's something we've seen. As I said, the mega title is like by far their number one priority in terms of the hype on these shows, but at least the tag belts, they at least put care into them too, somewhat, to at least give it a backstage segment. Which is more than you can say for the Reina de Reinas title, which was not on the show. And instead, we got a women's match that had nothing to do with
Yeah.
anything. So we had Chica Tormenta taking on Lola Vice from NXT. I will say this: Lola got a nice reaction when her music hit. And by the way, can we just say Lola Vice might have one of the best WWE theme musics of anybody? I guess Dominic has a good one too, but hers is really good, and the crowd popped for her, and she came out with good presence. I mean, the look, she looks great, and the match was like a totally nothing match. I thought, I have to say. Even Chica Tormenta came out like with a star presence with the cape that she had on, and then it's like, okay, have 5 minutes, and whatever comes, and just get it over with. And then Lola just beat her, pretty much.
Yeah, like this match totally reminded me of Sinelli having a match. Like
Okay, it wasn't that bad.
to me, it was that
So,
bad.
somewhere Fredo, like, his eyes just shot open, like with knowing that you brought up Sinelli.
Yeah, I think the match was due to I think Tormenta not understanding the WWE style and Lola being trained in that style. She's kind of expecting that reaction to whatever she's doing, and what she's used to seeing in NXT. And I think that's where the match fell apart. And Tormenta, I thought, was basically a punching bag for Lola, and I don't think really Lola needed to have this type of match, because she's already a star. She just needs to be put on that stage, and I just think like I'd rather see her versus Toxicus, someone that the fans are more behind, and I guess like they don't want to sacrifice them, or there's some kind of issue there with them not wanting that right now. So I just think that Lola's just, yeah, she's kind of already a star, I think, and just needs to be put in that position. And AAA, she's not going to get it from wrestling Chica Tormenta or anyone like that. I think her ceiling is higher than just AAA. So like for me, like she doesn't have a lot to learn in AAA.
Yeah, I
Like
agree
she
with that.
should be like on a SmackDown or something like that.
I mean, it's funny because she's been in NXT for years now, and I totally agree with you. If I was, she's one of the
Yeah.
ones I always look at and think, man, you really should have been called up by now, like probably like a year ago on there, because yeah, like her star presence is like really strong. Um, she has the background with the MMA stuff too, as well. Before she was like a star at Bellator, uh, but yeah, she's like, I really like Lola Vice a lot. I think she's got a ton of potential. Maybe this is something she wanted to do as well, because I remember like she had a feud with Roxy Perez in NXT, and the whole promo was basically she was like, Roxanne, like, don't speak to me on being a Latina, like you can't even speak Spanish. And they had this long back and forth where Lola, like, I want an all Spanish promo on NXT between us, and Roxanne didn't do that on there. I'm not saying anything about anyone, and Roxanne is a great wrestler. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying Lola kind of called her out, and she didn't stand on business there. So maybe this is something that Lola wanted to do. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. I could definitely see her being like in their plans as a big, you know, constant contributor for AAA going in, and maybe even the champion at some point. Uh, But I don't really know what they're doing because you had Natty on the show, and again they were in the dark match, so you
Yeah,
had the star women all in the, or not the dark match, but on they weren't aired on the YouTube version; they were in the Mexican only version. So I don't know what they're planning overall with this. I just know that this was like again in all of this. This was like the first 40 minutes of the video. It was like these long promos, and then this match that really didn't accomplish anything. Uh, the best part was Lola dancing after the match. I think overall, like that was the best part of the first 35 minutes of the show coming in. So then we got the segment we talked about with Dorian and Vikingo. Again, it was super brief. He just was like, "Hey, like you said, we've got more in common." Uh, and then we had Pagano and Psycho Clown come out, and Psycho Clown, man, what a great promo he was here. And he was like just putting over how they're the champs and they're calling out anyone, open challenge type of situation. And which can you believe it? The team that answered the call, but the
yeah.
one we just saw 20 minutes ago, comes out. So NGD comes out. They got booed by the crowd here. Like the fans weren't big into NGD at all here.
Like more than Vikingo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they hated Sansone and Forastero, and a big talking point was obviously like their kid to Quattrero and all that happened with Stephanie Vaquer and all of that. That for among American fans, that was a big talking point on what was going to happen with NGD. Not that they, uh, were involved physically with anything, but people were wondering what was going to happen with them. But when they came out, like you said, the crowd gave them big boos coming in there. And Pagano was like, "Hey, let's make it a hardcore match," pretty much like Lucha Extrema type of deal. A bunch of stuff happened. This to me was the best case of like, if you want to know what AAA was like before WWE took over, here you go, because you had all kinds of people running in, all kinds of weapons, stuff going on there. The Psycho Circus came out. Mecha Wolf came out and Macias came out to continue that stuff that we saw earlier. Um, they brawled. It wasn't as crazy as it was before, but they ended it with like they set the tables up in the ring and both of the clouds hit the Falcon, like double Falcon arrows through both tables on NGD to win. Uh, it was fast paced. I thought they did a good job of like not dragging along, and because so much had happened in the YouTube version, I'm sure that was a directive. Like, hey, like we got to get through this. But for what they did, it was not good. Like I would say technically, but it was at least fast moving and interesting. It was a AAA match, is how I would describe it.
Yeah, well, I would say kind of the opposite. Like for what it was, it was good because that's really like the style that Pagano and Psycho Clown really want to, I guess, excel at and sets them apart from the other people. Because in WWE they don't get the chance to go out in the crowd and brawl, and do all that. But here, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they can get to do that, and I think the fans really love it. Love to see that from them, and yeah,
Yeah, the
and
fans
I
were
have to
heated for
say
this match.
NGD really tried hard here. I think putting more effort than they have before in any match in AAA.
See, so that's the thing. Like, brief history lesson on NGD. When they were in CMLL, everyone loved them. Like, they thought they were the next stars of the company and were going to be top Rudos forever. Uh, they ended up leaving, and when they came to AAA, it's like all of that goodwill that we all had for them was lost. And then, like you said, they just weren't putting in the effort. And I mean, they're not the first one. How many guys have came over from CML to AAA, and they just weren't the same as they were before?
Yeah, I have to say, like the booking breaks down their spirit.
Again, it's not just them. Like it's been a ton of guys in the past that have been like that. That you could say. I think the only one that really grew was like Phantasmo. Like when he came over, like he actually got to move up the
Yeah,
card and do more and like be more motivated. Everyone else that came up from CMLL, it's like I think they kind of see it as like, man, that CMLL is the legacy company, and now I'm not in Arena Mexico anymore, and it just doesn't mean as much. But here they didn't show that. Like you said, it felt like they kind of know that they're basically like their whole careers are kind of on a razor's edge at this point. and they need to make this work. And I thought they tried their best here. That's a good point you made, to be honest. Here, definitely much more than we saw the last time they were around in AAA.
Yeah, and I think like who else does AAA have to offer? That this goes to show you like they're really
Yeah,
reaching like the bottom of the list of names they have access to.
yeah. I mean that's a good point overall, and I guess maybe they could spin this off into some kind of like Psycho Circus feud if they wanted on AAA proper. But
Yeah, because thinking about it, like I think we've seen less than 30 people, get on the WWE AAA shows
Mhm.
that we've seen in AAA before. So it's not.
One of them is Deimos.
Yeah, it's like a really short list, I think, and that might be due to like the way they're splitting the costs with the other owner, 49%.
Yeah, yeah. That's something nobody really brought up, and I think was not well understood. Is that, and they said that immediately. Like I remember reading that report the week after that happened, was that there was going to be this Mexican, subsidiary that was handling that side of things. Like you said, about 49% or whatever
Yeah, and
on
they've
there.
really like not gone all out, try to convince people from CMLL to join them, which was what I think.
No, we
No,
haven't seen any of that.
you know, why? I don't know. Like, it's just, I guess, the money in CMLL and with now AEW is just too good, I think.
And also, like TKO, I warned about this when that happened. Like TKO, if you look at how they handled UFC, they're basically like the cheapest owners
Yeah.
ever of a company. Like they're like, we don't care if you don't take what we give you, we'll replace you with someone else and make them fill your spot. And they don't have reverence for anybody outside of like, unless you're an absolute top tier star, like a Conor McGregor level guy in UFC. They basically got rid of all kinds of champions and things like that. And I saw no reason that it would be any different here, along with the fact that a lot of guys are gonna stick with CMLL out of legacy again. Like their heart's gonna be there as well. Now, if they wanted, yeah, like TKO and WWE could try to financially entice these people in there, but if you look at it from that perspective, these TKO guys are gonna look purely as these guys as like faceless names, like on a sheet. It's like if we could pay a CMLL guy a ton of money to get him to jump, why would we do that when we can get another guy that will just be happy to be here and we can use him in the same spot? I don't think they have that much care about CMLL or their wrestlers, even though they have a lot of amazing talents there. I'm not. It's nothing against them. It's just I feel like that's how TKO was always going to run the company in a lot of ways. I mean, we'll see what happens. Like on that end, I mean, anybody, and plus, let's face it, how many times has somebody in CMLL gotten shown the door in their own right in the past? A lot of these guys, like I said, it's very rare that there's a Phantasma that just willingly jumps. Like a lot of times, if you make a jump, it's usually because you piss some people off that run CMLL and they don't want you around anymore, like Roosh
Yeah.
or somebody, you know. So that could very well happen. Somebody could get on somebody's bad side, and they might make a reach out to AAA and WWE, see what they can do on that end.
So we got after the match here, after the clowns won, we got the lights
Oh
going
yeah,
out, and then
the Wyatt Six came out. Nikki Cross spit blood.
like I think that whole act is probably gonna get over really really well in Mexico because they're used to seeing similar acts in AAA. They've always had kind of like the goth characters since Charlie Manson, and then
Yeah,
being part of those Vipers.
yeah, Dark
Yeah,
Oz and those guys. Like I said, bring them back. Yeah, where are they at? Escoria. Maybe they could be a new rivalry.
I think they're gonna start like a new generation of those.
That would make sense actually, and like this is a good way to bridge that into it. Like if you wanted to do that kind of dark carnival type of crap, like and build the Wyatt Six to bridge them off. I think that's fine. And this sets up another one again. They set up the Wyatts coming after Psycho and Pagano, like for the tag belts. Totally makes sense, and we'll see what happens with them. The act can get over. I'm skeptical about the match quality, but I think this kind of fits their guys too to do this hardcore, Lucha Extrema match with a Joe Gacy and a Dexter Lumis and stuff like that. They're probably better off doing that than a freaking normal match.
Yes, I've always said that. Like for this gimmick, like the Whites gimmick, like they're like these kinds of freaks and like I don't know, like serial killers type of gimmick.
Yeah.
Like they can't just have a normal match. Like to me, it just looks ridiculous when they're like running the ropes and like going for a headlock, having a guy in the headlock on the ground.
Listen, they may be in a cult, but they didn't forget that wrestling training, Micro. Okay, they didn't forget
the fundamentals.
Yeah, they didn't forget the fundamentals, even after they joined this Bray Wyatt cult gimmick here. But yeah, like I said, I like the angle. I totally agree with you that like this is going to get over with the AAA fans. I don't know if they're seen as like top stars in America or anything like that, but I think the gimmick and the presentation is going to work. And it gives you another option in the women's division too. You can have Nikki Cross do some kind of hardcore match in the women's division.
Yeah.
You can easily see her and Fabi like do some kind of crazy gimmick match in the future. So nice stuff there. I will say too, all three matches the crowd was pretty dope. Like they were into everything. Like they really elevated this, especially the main event, I thought. So we go to the main event, which is the AAA Mega title. Dragon Lee taking on Dominic Mysterio. And so this was a match where, again, both of these guys are WWE guys at this point. Although, Lee, he's one of the aforementioned guys that pissed off CMLL at one point and had to work in AAA afterwards. But, so he has a little bit of a history in AAA, but not that much, ultimately. So they came in, they had a really good match, I thought. Dominic is kind of perfect as Dominic. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's like the most spectacular wrestler or the most violent, aggressive wrestler. Again, his character is very much the Weasley type of Rudo, I suppose. You had a lot going on here. But I did like that Dragon Lee. I really felt like he wanted to make an effort here. I also like, too, that this actually is a continuation of what we saw in WWE TV, because like earlier in the week, Dragon Lee had beat Dominic's group. It was like Dragon Lee and AJ Styles. They won the tag titles over the Judgment Day there. So you kind of gave some good storyline stuff between these two early on. They did a crazy spot where he tried to do like a Hurricane Rana from the top to the outside, but Dominic caught him and powerbombed him off of it to the outside on the apron. It looked incredible and potentially very painful going on in there. The crowds were going into everything. They built up to Dragon, getting a great near fall off the double stomp. And I thought that they did a really good job of what they wanted to do here. Dragon Lee did the big dive off the stands or whatever. Where you dove off the thing. You had the stuff with the table. So overall, though, in the end, you had everything with Grande, and Dominic ended up getting the frog splash at the end after he grabbed a hammer here, which is something he's been doing in WWE, by the way. He did that before earlier in the week, again against Rusev on Raw. So he took his Raw finish with the hammer, and that led to him getting the win after Dragon Lee had scored a visual pinfall, but the referee was down. And afterwards, they did enough stuff where Vikingo, he came out to attack. Grande Americano made the save. Dragon Lee dropped Dominic from behind. And they set up the tag match between Dragon Lee and Vikingo versus Dominic and Grande Americano. And the fans were throwing, and there's a picture online that one of the coins that the fans threw ended up knocking Dominic in the head and busted him open of the fans' coins.
Yeah, and that's Dominic. I think had the microphone. Him and Grande were in there talking. And
Oh yeah, that was really good.
he was saying, him and Grande are more Mexican than Vikingo and Dragon Lee, and they're gonna show them at Guerra de Titanes in that tag match. So there's a match on the card.
See, here's the thing though. Both Dominic and Grande Americano, these gimmicks in the hands of the wrong person would be terrible. But because they clearly both have bought into this so much, it's actually great. like they're both actually awesome at their roles. And you can tell, like we sang Grande Americano's praises earlier. But a big part of it is that this gimmick, again, it's on a razor's edge where, like, this could easily jump the shark and be something goofy and corny and terrible. But in his hands, he did it great.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Dominic, where, like, this kind of insufferable type of gimmick could be terrible. But because he's so great and he invests so much of himself into it, it actually has totally worked. And you can see why the fans love these guys so much. They, like I said, he said that. And the Mexican fans cheered. I gave them a standing ovation.
Yeah, the commitment is there, and that's something that the fans will always pick up.
Yeah, so I really loved that overall. And Americano was great too in his part where he came in too. So I love that when he was like, "This is my house on here." So both of them were great. The whole thing was a lot of fun, and I think this is the stuff that even if you're not a native AAA fan, I've seen it online. A lot of people will check out these shows just to see what Dominic's doing, and Grande to a lesser extent. But I think that they do have a legit draw for AAA in him as the champion. I think putting the belt on him was a really good decision.
For me, I'm kind of split on that because I just don't like Dominic's matches. Like, to me, it looks like he just got out of wrestling school.
Yeah.
Like, nothing he does is exciting. He's not very expressive. The only type of expression that he puts out there is like taunting, and I think everything he does just looks lazy and slow. And like in this match, I think Dragon Lee was the person just doing everything for him.
Yeah, like all that stuff I said was all Dragon Lee's moves outside of the hair. That's all Dominic did of note.
Yeah, and I think the fans there took note of that and were supporting him too. Even when Vikingo came out, like, they weren't gonna boo Dragon Lee because they saw the effort he puts in.
Or should they? He's great.
Yeah. So Dominic, like, for me personally, no, but obviously, like, these fans buy into him, so I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I think he's a great character and not a great wrestler. Like, I think pretty much anybody. I think very few would say Dominic is an excellent in-ring performer. Yeah, like I don't think many people would say that. But him as a character, I think, works, and I think the fans are interested in what he's doing. And I think it's smart too how they did it, because you have people like Dragon Lee and Grande Americano who are great wrestlers. You can work around limited people like Dominic when you're putting people around him like that. So I think from that edge, I think they're actually doing a pretty good job with him as champion overall. And I thought this was the match itself. I mean, it's got a high rating on Cage Match. It's got like an 8.55 rating, which is, I mean, that's a little high, to say the least. I wouldn't rate it that. I rate it more like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, maybe be more where I'm seeing it. But like I said, I think the fans are emotionally invested, so they're going to overlook the accurate criticisms that you and I both have on his in-ring work. So yeah, with that said, I mean, it was an hour, 15-minute video, and like 20 minutes of it was wrestling. It felt like so much was built on that first half of the show with all those promos. But I thought the tag match, again, when have I ever watched AAA for great wrestling? Like let's just be honest. Like, this was not a great wrestling show anywhere near as good as the CMLL show. but the fans were hot throughout. They built stuff for the future, and I think from that end, it was good. But as a show, watching it, I thought the CML show was a lot better. I do have to say.
For me, I would prefer the AAA show if it had maybe if I'd seen like the matches that weren't on this YouTube version of the show.
Yeah, they look good. Wish we could have seen those title matches that they kept
Yeah.
off.
So like I like it. I like AAA show more in a way because there's storyline I guess happening, and I think that's kind of just more exciting than the matches that you'll see get thrown together in CMLL. It's just they're good matches, but good matches happen every week there, and it's just like I don't know, more of the same. And AAA, there's like variety and just different things happening, and characters. CMLL doesn't have that many characters.
I'll praise AAA when we see Laredo Kid on one of these shows. Like this man feels like if you didn't look up the results online, he's been on a milk carton. Why don't they use him on the WWE shows? What did Laredo Kid do?
I don't know.
He's a champion.
Maybe from Laredo.
The show. I once fell for a girl from Laredo once, Micro, and I will not stand for this unfortunate besmirching of that great city. But yeah, we can only really speculate on the politics of who makes the shows and who doesn't on these YouTube shows. And I suppose this kind of gave us a clue with the Lola Tormenta match instead of the title match. They are going to prioritize for the international audience the AAA versus WWE side of things more so than the Mexican side where you get the full shows. So I think this gives us a good clue of that going forward. So we'll have to see how it goes. Again, I agree with the storyline stuff. The match quality was not good, I would say. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But like I said, hopefully the fans are into it. I saw some people talking about it online, and they are into all of this right now. So that's very good for the international fans, not the native Mexican fans. Um, but coming up, there's still some stuff going on. Olympia, we talked about her in CMLL. She's going to get a title shot versus Mercedes Monet. So they're giving her an AEW spot going forward.
Now, let me ask you. Olympia came out to accept the open challenge from Monet. Who do you think somebody else should have done that?
Yes, there are many other better options if you're going to pick a CMLL luchadora.
Okay, who's your top two?
Catalina, in my opinion, I think she has the most hype for star power. Other than that, I don't think it should have been Persephone because they've done that already.
But they didn't do it in America.
That's true. I mean, she was in that 4-way match with Mercedes, but I don't think they did the 1-on-1. You're right. You could do Scotty. I've always liked Zuchis before, to be fair. Where's Kira?
You just named like 6 people before Olympia.
Yeah, all of them were better people, though. Like, better
Exactly.
luchadores. Yeah, but for whatever reason, maybe this is some kind of like, in their mind, they're like, hey, Valiente lost his mask, so we're gonna we're gonna do him a solid and put his daughter, we're gonna give her a shot in America. But yeah, I don't expect it to.
Yeah. That sounds like something they would do.
Well, and she's not somebody that I would have picked. Like I said, we just named like at least 5 different people that would have been better people first time. So I don't expect a great match. If you're like a Mercedes super fan and you see her have these bangers or whatever, I don't expect that with Olympia. But who knows? Maybe she'll be motivated so much that she just has the performance of a lifetime against her. I don't know. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that one. They've got in WWE, like I said, Dragon Lee did just win the tag belts with AJ. They had like Mr. Iguana and La Parca on the NXT show. They had an NXT pay-per-view. Like Halloween Havoc. It was those two versus like Javon Evans and Leon Slater, who are like two really young, spectacular high flyer guys. So they put them in there on that show. I watched the match. I thought it was all right. Uh, I definitely like the Slater and Evans team. I just think it was a tough spot to be in where, like, they want obviously Laparca as well to be baby faces, and the other ones are like babyface high flyers. So you had a mix of like comedic baby faces and like high flying baby faces. So I thought it was okay, like not a bad match, but it could have been better to say the least.
Yeah, I watched it so I could see Laparca because I have not seen him enough of him as Laparca, but I think he did well. I think he could have done better, if he had integrated more comedy, more crowd involvement into what he does. I think he's missing that.
Yeah, because like the thing is, his rep before was like a bland young baby face, pretty much. But he really didn't have much going for him as Brazo de Oro. Like he's okay, but I just think that we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Obviously, it's a big opportunity. You could be like a totally lead technico for AAA with this gimmick alone, but I don't think he's a great performer. Like even all these years in.
Yeah.
So stuff continues. You got stuff to watch if you are a Lucha fan. You can watch them in Mexico, also America, and even Japan as well. So you got a lot of good stuff to watch going in, there. And we'll see what happens going forward. They set some stuff up on AAA we talked about. We got the Dia de Muertos shows in CMLL. We'll have some stuff to get back later on, but I think that's about it. Michael, you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just want to thank the people for listening to the show.
That's always the most important part. We're so glad that you guys joined us again. We bounced back last month after a long delay. So I'm glad we were able to come back again this month with some cool stuff to talk about. Even had a little bit of Pokemon talk there. So definitely that's something you definitely should talk to me about, message me about on Twitter. What's your favorite Pokemon out there? On there, and what luchador should represent them as well, because we don't think that CML did the best job with Hall Lucha and Machamp. So we'll have to see how that goes. But as always, check Micro out on Twitter at MicromanFever. Check me out on Twitter at Viva_0. Check out my other show, Eastern Lariat. By the way, quick plug for that, because our latest show should be out by the time you hear this. I did a show with a voter in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, all about the Hall of Fame. Ton of time, all the regions were covered, including Mexico. I got him to vote into that finally this year. We talked about everybody involved with that and some legendary teams. So if you want to know more about Lucha Libre history, check that out. We have a good segment on that on there, and history of all kind of wrestling. We did Mexico, Japan, America, non-wrestlers. We even talked about a wrestler from Brazil on there who's nominated, Ted Boy Marino, this year. So we talked a little bit about everybody. It was a lot of fun. And if you're a fan of history, I definitely recommend checking it out. But most importantly, keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, because Lucha Talk will come back very soon. And we can't wait to talk to you all again. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're all safe, having fun. Happy Dia de Muertos. Happy Halloween. Hope everybody's safe and having fun with their family. But no matter what happens, check out Lucha Talk. Have fun. You know I love you. And until next time, adios.